If you're ever driving down Route 106 in Michigan and you see a cracked sign that says Greenbriar Motel, don't stop. Keep driving. Because there's something deeply wrong with that place. Something that pretends to sleep, but never really does. I know. Because I worked there. Only for a week. That was all it took. It wasn't supposed to be a horror story. It was supposed to be a quiet job. Nights at the front desk, clocking in when the rest of the world went to sleep. Checking people in, logging a few names. Balancing inventory. I liked the stillness of it. A lonely motel off an empty stretch of highway. It meant peace. Time to read. Time to waste on old computer games. While the crickets hummed outside, Frank, the owner, didn't care that I was a high school dropout with a record. He needed someone cheap, someone awake. And I needed rent. That was the deal. But from the first night, something felt wrong. It started with the smell. When the wind shifted across the parking lot, the air turned sour. Heavy and rotten like meat left in the sun. It clung to the walls, seeped through the vents, hung in the curtains. I told myself it was roadkill. Deer, maybe possum. The woods around here are full of both. Still, it made me uneasy. That kind of smell never really leaves. It just waits. The rooms were strange too. Some had no windows at all. Smooth plaster where glass should have been. If you looked close enough, you could still see the seams where the frames had once been filled in. I thought it was just bad renovation work. Later, I realized it was intentional. Some of the guests, I was told, preferred windowless rooms. The way that was said, flat, unblinking, stuck with me. After Frank left that first evening, the building felt like it exhaled. Old neon buzzing, rain gutter ticking, the hum of a machine older than memory. The silence had weight. And somewhere behind that silence was the smell again. It didn't take long before someone else showed up. A woman, older than me, pale, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much bleach and not enough daylight. She said she'd been working there for years, cleaning mostly. She moved like she knew where every creak in the floorboard was hiding. She told me to be careful, not in words meant to scare, just simple instruction. Keep to myself, check them in, check them out, ask nothing. If I did that, I'd be fine. At the time, I thought it meant the motel was running the kind of business that didn't like sunlight. Drugs, maybe worse. I didn't argue. With a record like mine, you learn when to stay quiet. But I wish she'd told me the truth. I wish she'd told me what those rooms were really hiding. That first night I checked in 3 guests, each of them strange in their own way, but not enough to sound alarms. A man built like a wall, face hidden behind sunglasses that seemed welded to his skull. A woman painted up like a wax figure, her makeup cracked at the corners of her mouth. A thin young guy who smelled faintly of something chemical. They all kept their distance, they all hid their faces. I didn't question it, didn't even look at them longer than I had to. Her warning echoed in my head. Don't look too long. Don't ask. By midnight, the motel was silent again. Outside, the sign hummed through the darkness. Vacancy, glowing faint red against the trees. I pulled up Minesweeper on the computer, played music low through my phone, and tried to forget the smell. For a while it worked. Then the door opened. It was 2 a.m. No car lights in the lot, no sound before the click of the handle. When I looked up, the man in sunglasses was standing in the doorway, the same one from earlier. He walked in slowly, as if he knew exactly how his footsteps sounded on tile. Something about him was wrong. His proportions, maybe. Too smooth above the glasses, the skin too flat where the brow ridge should be. No texture, no shadow, like the idea of a face sketched by someone who'd never actually seen one. He asked for razors. That was all. Razors. The request made my stomach twist. Razors at 2 a.m, in a place that smelled like decay. Still, I told myself not to think, not to see. I went to the back room. Every step felt like turning my back on a cliff. When I found the small plastic pack of razors, my hands were shaking. I gave them to him without ever looking up. He left as quietly as he'd come. The sound of the door shutting behind him was like the air sealing itself again. When the dawn came, I realized something that froze my blood. All 3 guests, the man, the woman, the kid, had something covering their faces. Sunglasses, makeup, a hood. Not one bare face among them, like whatever was underneath didn't belong here. The next night was quieter. No check-ins, no footsteps, just the static hum of the vacancy sign and the occasional car passing through the rain. For a while, I almost forgot the smell. Then, close to midnight, a noise. A door slamming somewhere outside. When I looked at the cameras, room 16's door was wide open, swinging gently in the wind. That room was supposed to be empty. I watched the feed, rewinding the footage. The door had opened on its own, and then a figure had stepped out, a woman, long dark hair, walking calmly to room 22 before disappearing inside. Room 22 was occupied. For a while, I just stared at the screen, trying to decide what made more sense, a thief or something else. Then I told myself the same lie again. Don't ask questions. Still, I needed to close the door. So I went outside. The air hit me first, that same sickening rot, thick enough to taste. When I reached the doorway, it was pitch black inside. I switched on the light. The room was clean, perfectly made bed. White sheets, nothing out of place. But the smell didn't fade. It grew stronger. And then I saw it. Something pale was lying half hidden beside the bed. A folded shape, beige and translucent. At first I thought it was cloth. A pillowcase, maybe. But the color was wrong. And the longer I looked, the more my brain began to fill in what I was seeing. The folds weren't fabric. They were skin. 5 faint fingers curled at the edge like a glove someone had peeled off. The whole thing looked hollow, empty, as if a person had simply unzipped themselves and stepped out. I stumbled back into the hall, bile burning my throat. And that's when I saw her, the woman from room 22, walking toward me, hair wet, face wrong. The proportions shifted just enough that it felt like staring at a mask that didn't fit the skull beneath it. She was moving fast, faster than any normal walk. I ran through the lot into the lobby, locking the door behind me. The silence that followed didn't last long. Then came the sound, a soft, tuneless whistling, circling the building. Outside the front door, then the windows, then the back, round and round for what felt like hours. When the first light hit the tree line, it finally stopped. But I didn't move until I saw the day shift pull into the lot. When they did, I left without saying a word. I didn't go back the next night. I told myself I'd quit, that no job was worth that smell, that sound, that face. But life doesn't work like that. Rent doesn't wait for trauma. And jobs don't grow on trees for people with records. So I went back. The world outside the motel was bright and normal. The kind of cold sunlight that makes you question if what you saw was ever real. But the moment I stepped inside, the air thickened again. The same faint odor of rot clinging to the vents. The same humming lights flickering like they were alive. Matilda was there that evening, moving quietly through the rooms with her cart. When I tried to tell her about what I'd seen, she looked at me for a long time, like she was counting how many words I'd already said, how far I'd gone. Then she told me the same thing she'd said before, only softer this time. Keep your head down. Mind your own business. If you do that, you'll be safe. I wanted to believe her, so I did. For a few days, nothing happened. Guests came and went, faces half hidden under hats, glasses, hoods. Some smiled too wide, some didn't blink at all. But I ignored it. I smiled, I nodded, I stayed alive. Until November. That night, the world was water. Rain poured in waves, hammering the glass, turning the parking lot into a shallow lake of red neon reflection. The thunder rolled slow, like something massive turning in its sleep. No cars had passed in hours. It was the kind of storm that isolates you from the rest of the planet, like being buried alive with a roof. I didn't expect anyone to show up. But then, through the sheets of rain, came a knock. 3 sharp hits against the glass window beside the door. When I looked up, there was a shape standing outside. Tall, still. A hood pulled low over its face. For a moment, I just watched it. The rain was sliding down its sleeves, dripping onto the floor in steady rhythm. I didn't want to move. But something in me, that same part that still believes rules will keep you safe, reached for the door. The man stepped inside without a word. He was soaked to the bone, water trailing behind him like a shadow that refused to die. He moved close to the counter, too close, leaning in just enough that I could smell him, the metallic tang of wet cloth and earth. He said he needed a room. Nothing else. Just that. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in a while. The rain drowned out everything else, turning the space between us into an aquarium of noise. I focused on the computer screen, on the numbers, on the keys under my fingers. I didn't look up, didn't need to. Could feel him watching me. Close, unblinking. The process felt endless. Typing his name, Daniel Jones, a name too ordinary to ever be real. Counting the bills he dropped on the counter. sliding the key across the desk without touching his hand. Each motion a ritual of survival. When I handed him the key, I thought it was over. But he didn't leave. He just stood there. The rainwater dripping onto the tiles, each drop landing in time with my heartbeat. Then he asked me to walk him to his room. It wasn't a request. Something in his tone told me that much. And I don't know why. Maybe instinct, maybe fear, pretending to be politeness. But I said yes. We stepped out into the storm together. The cold hit like a slap. The water soaked through my shoes instantly, turning every step into a squelch. He didn't say anything, just walked ahead, his shoulders stiff, his movements too deliberate, like someone trying to remember how to act human. We reached his car first, a rusted sedan with its trunk half open. Inside was a single duffel bag. He lifted it carefully, almost reverently, as though it contained something alive. Then he led me toward room 7. The rain blurred everything. The numbers on the doors, the outlines of the trees, even his features. I could only see flashes of pale skin and dark fabric, moving in and out of the downpour like a stuttering film reel. He fiddled with the key, slid it in, pulled it out, repeated it again and again, not trying to open the door, stalling, keeping me there. When I realized it, I froze. The air seemed to thicken around me, and that's when I noticed his eyes. Blue, too bright, too still, like painted glass. He was watching me, studying me. Not like a man looks at another man, more like something learning how to imitate one. The urge to run hit hard, but my body wouldn't obey. The rain was deafening now, roaring against the roof, blurring the world into a single endless sound. And through that noise I heard something else. A whistle, faint at first, cutting through the rain like a splinter. It wasn't coming from him. It was behind me, distant, getting closer. The man's expression changed. The stiffness in his shoulders loosened. There was something almost like relief in his face. And then he spoke, quiet enough that the rain almost drowned him out. He said he was sorry and that he needed bait. I didn't understand at first. Then the whistling grew louder. I turned, and through the sheets of rain, I saw a shape walking toward us from the far end of the lot. A woman, or something that looked like one. Her hair was long and black, plastered to her face by the storm. Her clothes clung to her body like wet paper. She was smiling. Every step she took was too smooth, too balanced, like her body wasn't built for movement but had memorized it anyway. The closer she came, the clearer her face became until I saw the eyes. Pale blue, too wide, no irises, just two perfect circles of color that didn't blink. And then she stopped. For a heartbeat, the world went silent again. No rain, no thunder, just her, standing there, tilting her head slowly to the side. The smile never moved. The man beside me took something from his coat, a blade, short, silver, glinting under the lightning. He ran toward her, screaming something I couldn't hear. And the woman changed. It happened fast, too fast to make sense of. Her jaw cracked, stretching open like a hinge, coming loose. Her limbs bent backward, her body twisted, wrong and boneless. When she leapt, she moved like liquid. By the time she reached him, he was already dead. I ran. Through the rain, through the sound, through the smell of rot rising from the soaked earth. Behind me, I could hear the whistle again, closer this time, like something calling me back. When I reached the lobby, I slammed the door and locked it. The glass shook in the frame. I could see her through it, standing in the middle of the parking lot, drenched, head tilted, eyes empty. She smiled again. Then she walked away. The police came before sunrise. Their flashing lights turned the rain into shards of red and blue, cutting through the mist that hung over the motel like a second skin. When I saw them, I thought it was over, that someone, finally, would tell me what the hell was happening here. But the moment they stepped inside, I knew they already knew. They didn't run toward the body. They didn't ask if anyone was hurt. They just moved with quiet purpose, like people walking through a memory they'd lived before. When I told them what I'd seen, the man, the knife, the woman, they didn't react. One of them looked out toward the lot where the storm had buried every trace of blood. Another one just kept his eyes on me as if trying to decide how much I'd actually understood. Then they asked to see the security tapes. I showed them. I sat beside them while they watched the screen flicker and hum, showing the truth exactly as it happened, except it didn't. On the recording, there was no woman, no twisting body, no unnatural grin. There was just the man, running into the empty rain, stabbing at air until he fell, alone. The tape showed nothing else. For a long time, no one spoke. Then one of the officers muttered something into his radio, a single word I'd never heard before. It sounded clinical, like the name of a disease. He called it an infestation. Another officer led me back into the lobby. He told me to sit down and wait. They spoke in hushed voices for a while near the door, glancing back at me as if I were contagious. Then they came over. The one in charge leaned in close. He smelled like rain and copper. And when he spoke, his voice was flat. He told me I hadn't seen anything, that there was no woman, no body, no incident. He said it slowly, as if teaching me a script. And then he said something else. He told me to remember that I'd never stolen a thing in my life, that my record was clean, that I'd never been arrested, never been questioned, never been in trouble. He smiled when he said it, but his eyes didn't move. When they left, the parking lot was empty again. No sirens, no footprints, no body, just the smell, faint, but still there, of something sweet rotting beneath the rain. I quit that night. I didn't even collect my last paycheck. I drove until the sun came up, until I didn't recognize the trees anymore. But even now, sometimes when I'm driving down an empty highway and the wind shifts, I smell it again. That same thick, clinging sweetness. And for a second, I swear I can hear a faint whistle cutting through the static of the radio. I've tried to convince myself it was all a breakdown, that the stress, the sleep deprivation, the isolation, made me see things. But deep down, I know better. Because that kind of fear doesn't come from imagination, it comes from recognition. What I saw that night wasn't new, it wasn't born in that motel, it was wearing something that used to be human. And it's still out there, waiting for another place to hide. So if you're ever driving down Route 106 in Michigan, and you see the flickering sign for the Greenbriar Motel, keep driving. Because not everything that checks in there ever leaves.
Subscribe and walk deeper in the dark.